Are we up?
We are all ready to go, guys.
Okay, I think we're live.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Exciting week here. We've got Breakthrough Academy, one of our incredible partners, here to give you all kinds of tips and tricks on how to get the most out of your business. Super excited to hear from the team here at Breakthrough Academy. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hey guys, I'm Benji with Breakthrough Academy. I lead the marketing team and build a lot of our content, and I'm joined here by Coach Matt. Hey Matt.
Benji, thanks for the intro. I'm a coach at BTA. Work predominantly with landscaping, earth-moving companies. I'm excited to be here and chat with everybody.
Cool. Mark, do you want us to dive right in?
Yeah, why don't you guys just hop right in? We're always super tight on time with these weekly meetings, so I'll try to talk as little as possible and give you guys as much time as we can get in here. But yeah, shoot.
I got to say hi to Ray in the chat, who's also from Kelowna, BC. I'm in Kelowna, BC, not far. So maybe you can hear my booming voice just down the hall. I don't know. I always yell, and the office hates it when I do this. But here we are. I'm excited to talk to you guys. We're going to do a very quick run through on all things standard operating procedures, or SOPs for short, as you'll hear me call them. Matt's here for color commentary. Mark, you're welcome to chime in as well. But what we want to do here is like a lightning speed round of some systems and ideas to help you build SOPs a little bit faster, a little bit better quality, and in such a way that your team actually follows them. Because if you've tried this before, you will know it's getting people to adopt the new process is sometimes the hard part. So when we do talks like this, we always give free stuff away. There's going to be kind of a bundle, a goodie bag at the end that you can go home with. We'll send you to a landing page that's gonna where you can download that. The agenda is very simple. We're going to talk about some SOP red flags, like some symptoms, some things that you will be experiencing that would let you know that you have a standard operating procedure problem. We're going to go through how to build them, and then we're going to talk about how to actually implement them with some change management ideas. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat. Just let me know, like in your business right now, what part of your operations frustrates you the most? Think about like your current structure, your current team, the systems you have, the work you're doing, the customers you're working with. What element of your business is frustrating you the most? Chat box is on the right. Take a second, write out a sentence, and give us an answer there. I see a bunch of you typing. I'm just going to wait a second to get a few responses. Foreman not reading job orders, says Tess. If anyone else has something, please do use the chat box. We'd love some engagement here. I see Ray typing. I see Jeremy typing, making sure they're updated in a place so everyone can see. Awesome. If you're still typing out your answer, please put that in. I'm going to keep moving here just for the sake of time to some SOP red flags, and we'll check back on the chat in a second. So here's how you might be able to tell that your business is struggling with a lack of procedure, a lack of process. Here's an obvious one, guys. If you are repeating yourself constantly, you're on the phone all the time, your office door is getting bursted through by employees with questions. You find you're kind of saying the same thing over and over. That is because you have a lack of documented procedures, and that's equating to more phone calls. And there's this widespread confusion. There's widespread mistakes. Things feel very sloppy in your business. Okay, so that would be one red flag. Another would be slow onboarding and high turnover. If you are noticing that it takes people forever to kind of get the hang of things, or on the flip side, it's just sort of a turnstile of staff. People are coming and going very quickly. The average time that an employee spends in your business is quite short. Also an SOP issue, because generally speaking, when people don't feel confident in their role, when they don't feel like they can really take ownership over what they're doing because there's a lack of process, they tend to leave. People want to feel successful, and these play a really, really big role in that. So that's another big one. Another thing that we look at is just an inability to scale. Like if your business feels stuck, if it feels plateaued, if you have limited production capacity, if you feel like you need to be there all the time, these would be signs pointing to a lack of standard operating procedures. Coach Matt, any one of these three that you would want to layer on to, just these three red flags, and what do you see with the members that you coach?
Yeah, like I like to say, like employee burn and churn. So burnout and high turnover. Typically, if you see that, that's a big red flag. When you talk about onboarding, it's a huge piece, not just for new employees, but if you think about an existing employee having to help onboard somebody, if you don't have SOPs in place to help support that, those existing employees become aggravated, they get burnout, and they tend to get a little bit grumpy in their roles at times.
So, guys, if any of these three things are kind of clicking for you, I virtually guarantee you're in the right place and learning the right content here. Do a little check-in. This is like a self-assessment. You're going to give yourself a report card, okay? When it comes to standard operating procedures in your business, let us know what your self-identified score out of 10 is. A 10 would be like everything is documented, everything is standardized, they get followed, they get updated, we run a very tight ship. A 1 would be we all do things our own way. I field phone calls constantly. I'm dragged to the job sites to go and deal with issues that could have been avoided all the time. That would be a 1. And then there's this whole mid-range. It's like we have some stuff. We've got a few things, but if we're honest, it's maybe not as dialed as I'd like it to be. So let us know where you sit on that spectrum. I see I see a 5. I see a 4. Good. This is a safe space. You don't need to lie. You don't need to boast. If you're a 1, let's own it. Let's call it a 1. So I want to talk a little bit about how to build SOPs. This is a really, really important question, which is where do I start, right? Like, how do I know where to begin in my business if I'm trying to build standard operating procedures? Because for a lot of you, you might feel like I've got so many things that need to be systemized. I'm not even sure which one to start with, right? So if that's you, I've got a few things to kind of frame this up and help you think about it. One is an idea we call pushing versus pulling. So when we push SOPs onto our team, what that means is a very top-down approach. We're kind of demanding that the team build standard operating procedures. It's not a very conducive environment to building the right system, because you are the one kind of barking orders about standard operating procedures. And it's also very, very difficult for you as the business owner to know all of the issues, all of the processes in your business. And so we like to take an approach which we call pulling SOPs from your team, which is where you're selling the vision of why standard operating procedures will make their work life better. Your team is motivated to help you in the build out of these. And you are kind of using the team and their collective knowledge to build the best process possible. What you'll find is that the end product is much better. The systems that you build are much better because guess what? You don't actually have all the answers as the owner. You do need your foreman. You do need your, oops, sorry guys, I've lost my secondary screen here. One sec. You do need your key staff to be involved with the build out of these in a very big way. So we want to pull SOPs from our team and not push them on our team. The second thing I want to say here, and Matt, I'll go to you in a sec. When you're thinking about where to begin, okay, we've got the push-pull thing out of the way. The way that I would frame this is if you have processes in your business that are directly connected to safety, okay, someone is at risk of getting hurt, and you can solve that and you can avoid that by creating SOPs. That would be the first place to start. That's an obvious place. But outside of that, okay, I like to ask a few questions. 1, what keeps you up at night as an owner? 2, what stresses your team out? What do you notice them kind of grumbling about or feeling frustrated by? What is costing you money? and what annoys your customers. If you reflect on those 4 questions and you just kind of start to collect some data, jot some stuff down, it's going to be very, very, very clear where to begin the SOP building journey. And my advice to you is outside of those safety issues, don't overthink it. Just pick one and start. So Matt, I'll dish to you on this. When you're working with a Breakthrough Academy member and they're wanting to systemize and they're feeling that real overwhelm, not knowing where to start, what kind of advice, what kind of coaching do you give them?
Well, like, don't overthink it and pick one and start. Definitely, like, just do it. You have to make it a priority. If you don't make it a priority to get it done, you're just going to kick it down the road. So time block, put some time aside in your calendar, prioritize it. Don't work in isolation. Get some feedback from your team on it and get to it and just get it done. It's really, you really just have to focus, get some time aside and put some pencil to paper and get it down.
I would also point out, guys, that often the first thing is the hardest. And there is, you've heard in business this idea of a flywheel effect. And that idea is sort of, getting some momentum built up around systemization, getting some habits built up around this, working on the first system or taking the plunge at the beginning is often the scariest and the hardest. After that, things will become much, much easier. Your second system, you've got some practice, you know what to avoid because you made some mistakes the first time around, and momentum starts to build. So I often find we can kind of sit in this stagnated place for a long time. And once we make the decision to start doing this, it gets a whole lot easier. So I want to go through a really quick framework on how to create SOPs in your business that I find really, really useful, easy to remember, and kind of fun, actually. By the way, at the end of the session, if you want to take like a very easy to use sort of paint by numbers, fill in the blanks checklist, you're going to take this framework I'm going to teach you. You're going to download the tool at the end of the session, and you're going to kind of massage the two together, incorporate the two together. This will save you a bunch of time. But we have this great acronym that we call GREAT processes. And I got to give credit where it's due. I stole this from our friend Tom Hughes, who's written this book called GREAT Processes. He's a lean manufacturer and kind of engineering guru. He runs this big electronic company in Ireland, actually. He's written a few books on lean manufacturing and SOPs more specifically. And so I've stolen this from this book, but I find it so useful. So it's GREAT. And I'm going to go through each and just give you some ideas that will help you on your journey. So G stands for Gemba, and Gemba is a Japanese term for it means actual place. Okay, so what we mean in the context of SOPs is we want to not sit in our office and try to imagine how the work gets done on our job site. We don't want to sit in a coffee shop and try to remember, how to build something from the time that we used to build it. We want to go to the actual place where the work happens. So if you're trying to build standard operating procedures for snow removal, hop in with one of your drivers for a day, go to the various sites that you work on, follow the route, like actually build it there and document there. And the reason this is so important is there's little details and there's little minutia about how things get done that I guarantee you will forget when you're doing it anywhere else. And so being in the actual place is a really, really critical first step that a lot of people miss. They want to do this, want to do a whiteboarding session in the office, rent out a conference room, whatever. No, roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, go to site, or if it's sales process, you go to the customer's house, you go to the client's house or business, be in the actual place. So that's what we mean by Gemba. Matt, do you want to layer on top here? Like why is there anything that I missed about why being at the actual place is so critical?
Well, I think it comes down to that if you're building it with the people that are going to be implementing the SOP in the field, the buy-in to getting that, rolled out and, implemented with your team will be exponentially higher if they've played a part in helping you build it.
Why is that?
Because they're the ones that know the job. They know how to do it. They know it better than you. You might think as a business owner, you know, like how to build the SOP, but they know the processes better than anyone else. And if they've had a plate, like a piece in building that out with you, the adoption is so much higher just because, you know, they've got a piece of the action. They've had their say. They've been able to put their input, and it's not just a top-down approach; it's a bottom-up approach. I've actually had some members that I've coached that have actually done SOP bonuses for their team members to build them out, and paid out like, you know, $100 to build out an SOP, and just started you know, getting some engagement from the field on it, and it's worked great.
I really love that point. Our buddy Tom has a great quote about that, which is basically people follow systems that they helped build. And so you do need to tap into some of that psychology. And even if you're the project owner and you're the one really leading this, having them feel like your team, that is, they've left their mark on the SOP that's being created is a really easy way to make adoption later on a lot easier. So R, let's move on, stands for recognized, okay? The SOP needs to be recognized as the true best practice by the team members who execute it. And there's this really hilarious meme with Michael Scott on the right. When someone with no idea how to do your job tries to tell you how to do your job. This ties into this idea that Coach Matt was just sharing, which is the SOP that gets built needs to be recognized by the team as indeed the best practice. Right? So that might seem like a really simple point, but we see this all the time in Breakthrough Academy where an owner or maybe an operations manager, someone who's really not a boots on the ground worker, tries to build this on an island in isolation, and then tries to sort of, you know, come to site and say, hey guys, here's some advice on how to do your job better. And you can kind of imagine the resistance that's there. So Gemba starts to solve this by just being at the actual place, but we want to ensure that this is recognized as the best practice and widely agreed upon on the best practice, because what will happen if it isn't is the team will sort of undermine the whole initiative. You know, the new person will come on site and they'll say, hey, where are the SOPs? Where's my training manual? And the former will say, oh, it's over there, but you know, don't really listen to it because this is the better process. And then the entire sort of exercise is in doubt. So it needs to be recognized, and that's what R stands for. There's another really important point here, which is it needs to be easy to use and follow, and that's what E stands for, right? So I'm actually not a proponent of big 60-page manuals and complex procedures. Big fan of iPhone photos and short descriptions and like grade 3 level English. Like, this does not need to be fancy. Most of the stuff in the businesses that we run are going to be a sequence of steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, etc. You can see on the right here, this is a sample from this cool app that we like called Gemba Docs. It just helps build SOPs where you just picture, description. You can throw together standard operating procedures much faster than you think. And generally speaking, when you're using multimedia at being photo and video and simple forms of text, these things are a lot easier to understand and follow. So I'm a big fan of that, this whole easy to use and follow idea. Matt, what have you seen when it comes to like this idea of simplicity? Maybe you can speak to what happens when people forget about this and they make something that's much too complex.
Yeah, well, that tends to be what happens it's often why people just don't start, is because they become overwhelmed with how, you know, they think it's like they're writing some kind of academic research paper or something like that. And we're not, you know, it needs to be simple. So just don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. Lots of bullets, easy to read, checklists, pictures, videos are amazing. And use technology. There's a lot of great technology out there to help you build SOPs. And it makes it really easily accessible in the field for your staff.
Okay, so GRE, next is A. This is critical, guys. They have to be available at the point of use. One of the most frustrating situations that a lot of our businesses find themselves in is having spent a whole bunch of time creating SOPs, and they might even be good. They may have followed all the steps so far, but the mistake they make is they put it in a binder and it sits on a shelf in the office, or they put it in a binder or a book and it sits under the seat of a work van, as you can see in the photo here. I love this line, which is put the answer where the question is. So there are, like Matt was saying before, there are many, many great tools that allow to have this on the go using simple apps. It's only a couple clicks away on a phone or an iPad. I also think using QR codes and printing those out, putting those on various pieces of equipment to show different processes for how to use them is really functional. I also think, listen, I'm a big fan of print something, laminate it, put some rings around it, and have it right in the crew kit where the crew's set up every morning. You need to make this available at the point of use, because if they don't, they're just going to sit there and collect dust, and all that great work that you put into it is for nothing. So that's what A stands for in this great acronym. The last point here is T. Okay, trained and tested. So we use SOPs to train new people and do skill development and coaching. And so we use it in a training environment, I would say 60-70% of the time. Often even more senior staff, maybe they're doing something that is done seasonally. I don't know, a spring cleanup or fall teardown, winter teardown. So they may have forgotten something, and so they go back to it. But for the most part, SOPs are really, really valuable and used in training for the most part. The other thing that we want to do when we say tested, we want to make sure that these SOPs are tested for best practices. They're tested for updates in technology and equipment. They're tested for updates in building material or new stuff that we're using. You have to remember that a business evolves year over year. Processes evolve year over year. And if your SOP is if you have an attitude that I'm going to build it once and it's going to be good forever, very, very quickly they're going to become obsolete. And so we want to think through the update cycle where we're checking, hey, is this indeed still relevant? Is this indeed still up to date? I would say annual is a good bet. If your business moves faster than that, you could do it more often, but you need to be mindful of how much work this is. Generally speaking, we would coach at least once a year. There's kind of a look at all of our SOPs and there's a check to say, hey, is this indeed what we need to be following? Use your department leads for that. If it's a small business and you only have a few processes and you're only offering a few services, you could probably do this yourself in a day or two. So that is the great acronym. GEMBA stands for do it where the actual work happens. R stands for recognized, right? Make sure it's the best practice. E is easy to use and follow. A is available at the point of use, and T is trained and tested. So I want to give you guys a few ideas here before we wrap, which is some mistakes to avoid. In other words, why standard operating procedures fail. The first is abdicating ownership. Matt, I'm sure you see this all the time where a business owner comes to a web class like this, or they listen to a podcast and they go, yeah, you know what? My business really does need SOPs. I'm answering too many phone calls and my people are confused. I got to do this. You know what? I'm going to hand this off to my new office manager because they're really great at Microsoft Excel and they're good at that system stuff. They kind of dump it to someone else. What generally happens, Matt, when people abdicate ownership when it comes to the SOP building process?
It just falls flat. Crash and burn. You could have the best office manager, but again, it goes back to needing to do that work, writing the SOPs in the place where the work is happening, and dishing it off to an office manager who might have great intentions. It's just not gonna land with the staff that needs to implement it.
So when we talked earlier about this idea of like pulling SOPs from your team, yes, your team is involved. Yes, they have input, but you are the driver and you need to be the project champion on this. No one else will. And we've just seen this so many times. You give this to a junior employee, you hire an outside consultant. If there's really anyone that isn't like an owner or a core leader on the business, this is going to be a total faceplant. A second big mistake people make is having the wrong tools for the job. So we love technology. We love LMN. We love using tools that make this easier. And there are many out there. If you're on a budget and you want to do this on the cheap, I'm telling you guys, it's an iPhone and your camera roll, and Apple Notes, and you can whip this together quite quickly. They don't need to be beautiful and perfectly formatted. You'll get there in time. But use the tools that are available to you to make a minimum viable product and do it as quickly as possible. You can then build on what you made. Another big mistake that we say is all push, no pull. So if you're banging the drum about why we need this and I want SOPs because it's important, but your team doesn't understand and they're not bought in, they're not going to help create them. The SOP you make is going to be inaccurate and not really a best practice. And even worse, nobody's going to follow them in the end. So you really want to make sure you're following that pull paradigm. The last mistake that we see people make is just making them once and then forgetting about them. So they fail to evolve with the business. Big problem if you don't think through updating these at least on an annual basis. So I want to hear from you guys. Just really quickly check in with you guys in the chat. What's a big takeaway from today? We've been talking here for 26 minutes. There's got to be one thing or two things like, ooh, that was a good idea. I'm going to take that and run with it. I'd love to know in the chat box. So take a second, type out a sentence or two. Let us know what's a big thing for you. What's a takeaway for you? And please do carve out some time in your calendar in the next couple weeks to put some focus on this. Okay, we are going to begin wrapping up. I want to talk quickly, couple things. Okay. How to implement change and where the real work begins. We've got a note here. Mark, do you want to talk about Greenius really quick in this offer?
I was typing. I wanted to answer Julie really quick, just if that's okay. You were asking if a leader doesn't believe in or want to invest in developing SOPs. I think it's really important that the leader buys in. And if you need to kind of ask a priming question, one way of asking this is just simply saying, would you really like to continue running the business the way you're running it? It's, a business without SOPs is kind of like being the ruler of a 1 inch by 1 inch kingdom. I kind of liken it to being in jail. You go to work every day and you have absolutely no opportunity to get out of that little kingdom that you've created because everybody has to come to you for answers to do anything. And so you're kind of tied to your business. You don't get an opportunity to enjoy life. You don't get an opportunity to connect with others outside of work. You can't get away from the business. Eventually, you just end up burning out. And I think most small businesses that either sort of give up or fail are often just a result of not being able to see the value in systemization, because eventually it'll burn you out. It'll always catch you in the end.
There's a great term in that book, Traction, by Gino Wickman, and you call it like the ruler of a 1 inch kingdom. He calls it the visionary with 1,000 helpers. And I think that's another good way to describe it. I'm the ideas guy. I've got all these great, I'm persuasive, and I've got ideas, and I'm a driver. But at the end of the day, you're ultimately kind of building the tracks, one track ahead of you at a time. And it's pretty exhausting. So if you guys have felt that before, I highly recommend you read the book Traction. Okay, that's that question answered. We've got an offer from you guys. Mark, I'll let you speak to this.
I'll be honest, I can't see the screen.
I can see it. Mastermind. There's a mastermind offer. There's a 30-day free trial. There's 25% off the annual plan. It's exclusive to this event for you guys to get on Greenius.
Wait a minute. Did you say 25%? That's going to kill me.
25% off annual plan. You blew it, man. This is it. It's too late. It's too late.
Benji's giving away Greenius.
I'm giving away Greenius. Sorry, bro. Listen, I did not mean to tank the LMN and Greenius, folks. It was a typo. No, I think that's legit. Go check it out, guys. We love it. I will really briefly talk about what we do here at Breakthrough Academy. So for those that we are not a software provider. We are a coaching and advising business that works exclusively with contractors. So I would liken this. This is like EOS, but very specifically for blue collar businesses. And we developed a framework that we love and that works, that we call the Contractor Growth Method, that helps you install financial controls so you understand your numbers and can make data-driven decisions. It helps you define roles so that people know what they're doing and they've got job descriptions and deliverables and accountabilities, etc. We build out hiring systems so you have A players to work with and it doesn't feel like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel all the time. We install training and onboarding systems. And that's really where SOPs fits into this broader framework. What we talked about today kind of fits into the training and onboarding part of the Contractor Growth Method. We want to skill people up quickly. We want to make sure that they feel a part of the team as fast as possible. We want to create optimized sales and marketing systems so you can take your great service to market, generate leads, and sell them efficiently. And then we want to build out a goal setting and execution system so that you have a long-term, you have a 5-year BHAG, you've got annual goals, quarterly milestones, and the whole thing feels like it's on the rails again. We work with a very specific profile of business owner. So generally speaking, $1 to $15 million in revenue per year. If you want to build a fully systemized company, you want to develop as a leader, you want to work with high-performing industry peers, be challenged and held accountable, and you want to professionalize your industry. That's something you're passionate about. This is probably a good place for you. So I said this at the beginning. There are going to be a bunch of freebies here that we give away. We're going to launch a little thingy on the screen. There you go. It's a big blue button that says click here. That will take you to this landing page where you can get a training checklist guide. You can get a training checklist example. You can get that great processes ebook from our friend Tom. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So you go to this page, you fill out some information. At the bottom, there's a box. There's two options. This is important. You can say, I just want the templates right now. That's fine. But if you want the templates and you'd like to connect with Breakthrough Academy and see if this might be a fit for you, you check that box that says, send me the templates and let's talk about how you can help my business. And we will reach out. We'll book a call. Let's talk for half an hour. Let's hear about your business, see what you're up to, and see if Breakthrough Academy might make sense. There's also some really, really great podcast content available. It's my last shameless plug. Mark's been on a couple times. Our friend Tom was on. We love to talk about business systems. It's called Contractor Evolution, every Wednesday on every platform. That's all I got. I don't know if we have any more questions. Any examples? Oh, question from Michael. I think this is for you, Matt. Any examples on bonuses for SOPs? What are the metrics? Maybe you can just unpack that whole idea of like bonusing people based on how many SOPs they create.
Yeah, I've seen, anywhere from like 50 to like $200 to write an SOP. I don't overthink, I guess, what you're paying them. Maybe just ask yourself the question, like, if you get that SOP implemented, how much is it going to save you in time and money once that's in place? And, come up with like a reasonable bonus, structure in order to compensate somebody to help create them for you. The most important thing on the metric side is going to be adoption. Are they actually being used? So you can't just write an SOP and then set it and forget it. It has to be utilized. So making sure you're doing follow-ups with the team, that they're actually implementing the SOP, they've adopted it, it's being used, whether it's in the field or for onboarding or wherever it's being put into place. But adoption is probably the biggest metric when it comes to the SOP.
Cool. Mark, have you got your slides up? Can you see this yet?
No, I'm in a hotel and I think the internet speed is so slow that the system is just blocking my screen view. So I can just see the cameras, unfortunately.
Okay, well I'm gonna pitch LMN for you then. Is that cool?
Yeah, you're
on. Okay, so August 28th, 2024, there's a Mastermind Weekly webinar. Persistence pays the bills. Join us next week. So I think that this is this thing again, but this is the topic for next Wednesday when you guys do this. We've done a few of these. They're always awesome. I think it's amazing that you guys do this much free content, and Mark is so generous with his time and wisdom. The next thing I see here, 2 days of in-class training and a lifetime of insight. 5 sessions across North America with LMN Snow Days. You'll gain insights into best practices for optimizing snow job management using LMN, including strategies for maximizing efficiency, reducing costs, and increasing profitability in the snow and ice management business. Mark, are you going to those?
Yeah, those ones are more led by our education team. I lead the 2-day sessions that are probably on another slide coming up.
Business growth transformation?
Yeah, I lead those personally. Those are 2 days. It's basically me describing all of my frameworks and systems that I developed throughout my career. And we kind of work through those over the course of a few days. The attendees leave with a workbook of basically the entire playbook to building a $50 million company or whatever size company they want. But everything I learned, all of the steps, all of the key systems for all of the functional areas are kind of outlined in the book. And we work through that over a few days just to kind of familiarize people with what they need to be working on. I think it's a great primer, but I really do think that we always recommend that companies join a program like Breakthrough Academy, because we know that, just simply reading books doesn't make it happen. We need accountability. We need peer-to-peer learning. We need a coach to kind of guide and help. And so those courses, you'll hear me say exactly that. We show you the way. We kind of describe what you should be doing, but partners like Breakthrough Academy are where the rubber really meets the road. And that's why we have you guys on here today, is to really expose people to the fact that there's incredible programs like yours out there really making a difference. I really just want to say to everybody before we sign off here, as I tour around and spend time with landscape companies, those that are part of Breakthrough Academy, I see an incredible difference. They understand how to set goals. They understand how to cascade those goals throughout their company, how to utilize metrics. Lots of those metrics we obviously surface in LMN, but how to utilize those metrics to drive improvements throughout the business, get more efficient, motivate staff, create incentive plans. I think there's an incredible opportunity here for everybody to take a look at Breakthrough Academy and consider the return on investment of stepping out of the business and working on some plans that are really going to set the foundation for a much, much better future.
Appreciate that, Mark. If you're looking at this on screen, you can see dates here: November 7th and 8th in Dallas, Texas, November 18th and 19th in Chicago, Illinois, December 2nd and 3rd in Detroit, Michigan, and then December 5th and 6th in Boston. So that's nearby you. Go. A couple of QR codes for you here. It looks like these are to follow Mark on LinkedIn and Instagram. So maybe take a screen grab of that or just pull your phone out and go do that. He's a good follow. By the way, I've been to these in-person events. Mark's not kidding. He literally just sort of peels back the curtain and shows you absolutely everything on how to scale a very sizable landscaping business. Everything from job site processes to performance pay to strategic planning. It's extremely thorough. I've been really impressed at everything I've seen. So I would highly recommend you go. And then if you want to leave us a quick review, you can scan this QR code and let us know your thoughts on the session today. We would love to hear them. Guys, let's leave it at that. We're a few minutes over. I really appreciate the time and attention for those of you that have been here today. I wish you all the best on your SOP building journey. 2 years from now, your future self is going to thank you for getting started early. So all the best. We will be back for another one of these soon, and have a great week. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.